How's everybody doing today? Today I'm joined by Father Pine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm kind
So
of
do you
bewildered by your introductory
oh
sequence, though, because it happened so fast that I didn't I didn't recognize that I recognized. So I think I might have recognized, but I haven't yet recognized that I recognized. But I'll keep you posted when that happens.
man, you have to cultivate a certain habit of being able to to process things in a faster pace. I mean, your sensitive faculties must be dampened somehow to hinder intellection.
I've actually thought about that while watching people check their Instagram feeds. I'm one of those creepy people in public transportation that watches other people, but kind of like low key, because I usually have AirPods in and I'm working on language exercises. So I appear to be the creepiest man there because I'm sitting over there in the corner going like, "Ja, ich habe meine," and they're all over like, dude, dressed weirdly, saying German things to himself. But meanwhile, I'm watching them just kind of swipe through their Instagram feed. And it is impressive to me that they can register something as interesting or uninteresting in such a short amount of time. Whereas I'm over there and I'm like, colors. And then they flip to another picture. And I'm like, more colors.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is impressive the way in which the human attention span, as it gets shorter, gets more I don't know, precise and like recognizing what appeals to it.
But it also gets like shallower too, because it's harder to consider the thing in its fullness, because when like the current trends when it comes to like even like conservative, well, trad memes, like it's just like boom 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 boom, like just what I did is like a picture like every like 1/10 of a second, like they'll like even
Mm.
faster than mine, they'll just go through like 1,000 different medieval and well Renaissance era paintings with like a certain song in the background, and that's the popular thing. But it
That's a
is kind of
popular
just
thing.
like
Wow.
it is like absolutely like ADHD inducing, because people now have just like, because I think that's honestly what's causing a lot of problems with kids, is because kids who grew up with phones, especially, then also with TV and stuff, they have all of these colors getting thrown at them, and now that's what keeps their attention. So when it
Mm.
comes to boring stuff like class or reading a book or stuff like that, it can't keep their attention because now their threshold is so high. They're kind of like drug addicts looking for the next high.
Wow. Fascinating. And meanwhile, what am I doing with my life? I don't know. Not
I know.
saturating it sufficiently with social media, it seems. Or maybe that's contrary to the kind of indication that you gave by the moral censure that you threw in their general direction. But still, they've got some serious colors working for them, so I respect
So do
that.
you Dominicans, like, I don't know how the monastic life is. Do you guys have cars at all?
So the community where I live in Freiburg, Switzerland, is composed of like maybe 18 friars, I want to say, and we share the use of three cars, basically.
Isn't
Which
that kind of cheating? Because Dominicans historically, you guys walk around on foot, right?
Um, excellent point there, Christian Wagner. So historically, Dominicans were forbidden from riding on horseback, which meant that we
Uh,
typically would ride around on the back of a donkey. Which is
oh,
why,
really?
when St. Thomas Aquinas gives that argument about the convenience of the fittingness, as it were, of the incarnation, he says
Yeah.
it's like riding a horse. He's being cheeky because St. Thomas
Uh-huh.
Aquinas is hilarious. CF, one of the responses, excuse me, one of the said contras in Prima Pars question 2, when he's like, does God exist? And then he cites Exodus 3:15 or 3:14, but God says, I am who am. It's because St. Thomas is hilarious. So yes, Dominicans would typically not ride on horseback, which would have been the deluxe transportation of the age. It does not translate to the modern kind of setting, nor is it any longer enshrined in our Constitution. So the Dominican law is a
Really?
living law, and it can be revised by Dominicans every 3 years. So we do that occasionally, sometimes for our welfare and sometimes for our woe. So I'll be seeing
So
you on the next
so
chartered jet from Freiburg, Switzerland.
so do the Franciscans, because I know they're like completely like riding nothing. Do they walk around on foot still?
It just depends. So there's one Dominican order, and the Franciscan order has a variety of expressions, right? So you got the OFMs, you got the OFM conventuals, you've got the OFM, like who take care of the holy places in Jerusalem, which is its own thing. You've got the Third Order regulars, you've got the Capuchins, you've got the Friars of the Immaculate, you've got the CFRs, you've got the FPOs, you've got the Franciscan Brothers Minor. So some of them do walk around from place to place. Some of them don't wear shoes. Some of them don't have fridges. Some of them don't have a variety of things. But you can find a Franciscan group for whom the vow of poverty is binding in this, that, or the other way, because there are just many expressions of the Franciscan charism. And a lot of people will say that that is in part because of Francis's idealism. So Franciscanism is a kind of idealistic strain in the life of the church, which is good, because if there weren't idealists, then we'd all just be like jaded chain smokers. So it's good that there be that.
I thought the Dominicans were the Chainsmokers. That's what I've heard.
No, the Chainsmokers is actually a recording artist composed of two men who make EDM music in the subgenre of electro house dubstep. So I thought you would have known that.
No, I can't even think of any music I listen to. I kind of just listen to like the one ordinary at mass, and then ordinary vespers and ordinary at matins, where they did like choral music, and then maybe some like English choral music like William Byrd. That's like about all I listen to. It's not like at work, they got like all the music playing in the background, and that stuff is just like garbage. I don't get it. I don't get why people like it.
I do, because the choral progressions are designed to make your heart beat faster and your toes tap. So I think all of us want a little bit of heartbeat toe tap action in our lives. And I'm sympathetic with it, honestly. Not in the sense that I'm like going out there looking for this music. But sometimes, for instance, if you're driving home on a long car ride and you're falling asleep at the wheel, endangering all those within a 2-mile radius of you on the highway, it's good to play EDM music, because it actually functions more effectively, in my experience, than coffee or sunflower seeds, which is a great gift to me and to all those in my immediate vicinity. I ordinarily
have you listened to Little Dark Age?
I have not. Ought I to?
Oh my! I'm gonna have to quick email that to you.
Great,
real quick.
Yeah.
So everybody that's watching, after that brief chit chat intro, we're going to be. I have to send you Little Dark Age. Oh my! I can't believe you haven't listened to that. That's like the best song ever.
Okay.
Look, 68 million views.
That's many, but not as many as Despacito.
I don't know how you know that, but
I just know that I think it's one of the most viewed videos on YouTube of all time.
Oh, I thought you had like a view count in your head or something. I don't know. You Dominicans are scary sometimes.
No. Oh. I'm not a robot. Nor am I a computer. I am a fallible human being. I'm a horseshoes and hand grenades guy. I'm like a close enough type, except for things where being close enough is not in fact close enough.
Okay, I'm gonna send you the link. I'm about to email it to you.
Look at this. Look at this wild freedom that you're exhibiting right now in this live show.
Oh, I do this all the time. I'll eat dinner. I'll like.
Will
oh
you?
yeah.
That's what happens on live streams these days.
I've done crazy things on live streams. I one time just dropped my Summa. I picked up my whole Summa one time, and I dropped. Unfortunately, I had this apparently is a recurring theme with me. I had a painting of Saint John Henry Newman on the ground.
Okay.
And it had like a glass pane over it.
No.
And I dropped my Summa on John Henry Newman. So somebody clipped. Yeah, it was laying on the ground right back there, and my Summa is right there. And I picked up my Summa because somebody was bragging about some Muslim book, how it's the longest book ever. And I was like, oh no, the Catholics have you beat. And I picked up my whole Summa and I showed it to the camera, and it slipped out of my hands and broke St. John Henry Newman.
That is tragic. Yeah. I thought that you purposely dropped it and just didn't acknowledge the fact that there was something beneath it. And then I was going to ask whether you were nearsighted, but that's not the case. So I won't ask that follow-up question.
So look at that. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. I just got another patron. Look at that.
There you
So
go.
so this is a good that's a good segue. Everybody watching, become a patron. Let's see. Oh, did I tell you that that I've edited and now have edited the first volume of Scotus's Ordinatio, and
I
I'm
have
putting
not.
it in print.
Are you really? When you say edited, you mean
Yeah,
like
yeah.
editing the
So that
manuscript, or do you mean like translating it?
no, no, no. Somebody had translated it, and
Okay.
it's kind of. I mean, it's a great translation. Every Scotist that I've talked to have said it's pretty nice, but the PDF wasn't the greatest thing in the world, and nobody had put it in print. So I had to go through and fix a lot of grammar and spelling stuff, and
Okay.
then fix all the footnotes. And yeah, so it's taken me like a month, but I finally finished it. So volume one is now in print, and that should be going in stores next week. So if you become it's Peter Simpson. If you become gosh, why can't I think today? If you
You
become a
got this.
patron, if you become a patron, you actually get a PDF proof of my edit. So
And you
that
get
is
a
worth
mounted
its
head
weight
of a
in gold.
deer off Christian's wall because he's got an
Yeah.
extra one.
Actually, I'm getting the third one here soon. Yeah, I shot that one probably ninth grade. That one probably 11th grade, and then the
Uh-huh.
third one. No, that was probably senior year actually. And the third one I just shot this year.
Okay.
So,
And the
oh,
fourth one,
what are your thoughts on SCOTUS before we actually get into our topic today?
what are my thoughts on SCOTUS? That's like asking somebody like, what are your thoughts on Bolivia? It's like a whole country. I mean, it would take me years to explore it in order to give you an adequate rendering of Bolivia. If I were to give you my impressions of SCOTUS right now, I'd be like, yeah, I saw Bolivia in the Copa America, but they weren't as good as Argentina or Colombia. So, no, man, we're not just going to do impressions on SCOTUS. Are you kidding me?
Like YouTube short level. We gotta get them out. The people want the 30-second. Oh man, you absolutely broke Militant Jamie's heart.
Oh, man. Sorry,
Would
Militant
would you
Jamie.
would you consider yourself a
I
militant
think he
Thomist?
capitalized SCOTUS, and that to me reads Supreme Court of the United States of America. If you capitalize all the letters, that means
What do you think
Supreme
about the
Court.
Supreme Court? I mean, you're overseas right now, so you don't have to worry about
I
pushback
am
like I do.
overseas. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah. I live in splendid isolation from the political makeup of our great republic. So, as a result of which, I don't weigh in on these matters because I can count the number of minutes that I spend reading the news on one hand. I can actually count it on 0 hands.
No.
So, yeah. So, is that a kind of liability when it comes to high level political discourse? Absolutely. How often am I called upon to participate in high level political discourse? Not much.
Wait, you mean
So,
like Fox News hasn't been like emailing you asking you to come on and talk about? I wonder if a
no,
Dominican has ever been on Fox News. That's a good question.
I imagine that's probably happened. As to when, I can't tell you, but I hope so. The cockles of my heart would be warmed if that were to have been the case. The Ann Arbor Dominican sisters went on Oprah a couple times, which is a different
Really,
thing. Yeah.
man, that's did they like get at Oprah or anything?
No, no, no. Oprah
I
was
mean,
just
Dominicans.
interested in
I'm,
their life. She's
I'm
like, "You're like
assuming Dominican
strong, powerful
sisters.
women. Tell me about being strong, powerful women." And they're like, "Yeah, gladly." And then she's like, "And you get a humpback whale." And everyone went home happy.
I'm sure that wasn't consecrated virginity wasn't Oprah's idea of a powerful woman though.
It was not actually, and most of her questions centered on that in a kind of strange and voyeuristic way, which is God bless the sisters for undergoing that. Yeah, woof.
Okay, so is John Duns Scotus a Dominican's worst enemy? I think it's Louis de Molina because I mean John Duns Scotus, he's a blessed guy. So you have to remember we can't be just like trashing all the people who have been beatified by the church, but Louis de Molina, he's fair game.
There you go. Well, I think it depends what you mean by enemy. So, within the limited confines of theological enemy, all of whom espouse what is basically, in fact, the Orthodox faith and are on board for, sacramental system, governance within the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Yeah, I mean, you could say something like Luis de Molina, because is not condemned as a heretic, and as a result of which, within those confines, you got yourself a good little candidate. But when it comes to enemy, if you broaden your scope to include heretics, things get wild. And then if you broaden your scope to include the preternatural, right, things get more ultimate. So I would say the enemy is the evil one. And the evil one often sows seeds of discord to make us think that it's us versus them. When truth be told, and without sounding overly naive or Pollyanna-ish, it's often us versus the evil one. So I'm leery of us versus them debates, although I'm happy to engage in them from time to time. But yeah, the enemy is the evil one, as far as I can tell. Blessed John Duns Scotus has been raised to the altars, at least partially.
Yeah, because honestly, I've had to read a lot of John Duns Scotus recently. He's pretty good. Like,
He's
yeah,
smart.
I mean, like, yeah, if you've dug into his Ordinatio, I don't know if you have, because it seems like you said that you haven't really read a lot of Scotus, but he has a section on the authority of Scripture, and like he gives 10 reasons why, and he kind of in his apologetics is even better than our angelic doctor, like his when it comes to that one area, yeah. Because he's anticipating, like, kind of like centuries ahead of his own time, some of the arguments that are being put forth by like new atheists and stuff, and all of these like German biblical critical scholars. Like, he's anticipating all of these arguments and then answering them. It's kind of like what St. Thomas does with the Lutherans in his treatise on tract on the Eucharist.
Boom.
So let's one more question. Would you consider yourself a militant Thomist?
I would not. I would say that I pertain to the Church Militant.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that oftentimes I'm somewhat solicitous for the reputation of Thomism, because I think that the fate of the church is in part bound up with the reception and the like kind of constant presence of Thomism. And so this is like, insofar as you have this debate in public discourse between or among people like David French and Sohrab Ahmari, or kind of people of Sohrab's ilk, which would be like, Matt Schmitz or such like. There's a kind of open question as to whether it's still possible to be kind of like polite or courteous in public discourse, not just in the limited sense of what that entails, but like, are we even operating within a system where like political liberalism, in the case of public discourse, where you can have meaningful exchanges, or is it all just bloody battle? And I think a lot of conservatives at this point are saying it's all just bloody battle, so there's no point in keeping up this farce. So why bother? But I think that with like, it's different in the ecclesiastical realm. This is somewhat contentious of a claim, given the the synodal way and the way in which it's playing out in certain language groups. But I think that it's still possible to have discourse. Will certain political factions within the church co-opt the discourse in order to pervert it? Undoubtedly, But I think that militancy is not. Well, here it is. Secunda Secunda, question 40. Well, it's in 4 articles. The first pertains to the just war theory in general, and then second, you talk about ambush. But then he asks whether or not priests or clerics should engage in war, and he says no. It's more fitting that clerics go up to the altar, that their blood be shed, than that they themselves be, involved in the shedding of blood. And so I think militancy, as far as Thomism goes, is better done by laymen. And I think that I'm not going for like irenic Thomism, but I'm doing more like a kind of predicatorial or like a pedagogical Thomism, which I think ends up sounding a lot less militant, because of the nuance that I can't help myself from introducing into every conversation, because I'm wildly addicted to subordinated clauses. So if I were to brand my Thomism, I would call it mystagogical Thomism. It's about taking you by the hand and leading you into the mysteries that you've already received, but remain as yet for a kind of apologetic and mystagogical explanation. Boom.
Yeah, I've been reading John of St. Thomas in his ascent to Mount Carmel. So I've been getting into the mystical life. a bit.
Let's go, baby.
I love it. I love it. It's great. It's our angelic doctor. He was a mystic as much as he was a scholastic, and he would probably say more so.
So here's a question. You just said John of St. Thomas and the Ascent of Mount Carmel,
Oh,
which I think was written by John of the Cross.
I
But
meant John of the Cross. I was thinking
okay.
of John of the Cross and St. Thomas at the same time. So I
Because
just
why
named a
not?
completely different figure.
No, I
And
respect that.
I was also thinking of Gregory Lagrange because I've been reading
Yep.
him, and I can't wait to get to his work of synthesis between um, John of the Cross and St. Thomas, St. John of the
This
Cross.
is
and
like
St.
The Love of the
Thomas.
Cross of Jesus or whatever it's called. I've forgotten the name of that book. I have it in
It's
a
in
box
2
back at home.
volumes.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
talking about Three
I
Ages
just
of
have
Spiritual Life?
yes, that one. I have a
Let's
massive
go.
PDF that's like I think it's like 5,000 pages, and it's
That's
Gary
many.
Lagrange's. Yeah, it probably wasn't legally acquired, but
Mm.
I'm not proximate to the act, so I don't know whether it was legally acquired or
You
not.
can get a
So
Kindle book of basically like everything that Gary Lagrange wrote for like 99 cents. So make it an
maybe,
honest book, man. Make it an honest book. Go and buy
okay,
that Kindle book and then use that PDF.
okay, Father, would this be a sin if I bought a copy of the Kindle book and then didn't read it just so I could keep using my PDF?
I think I might actually, I'd be inclined to say yes, because sometimes like straightforward restitution is not possible. And I don't know what good is served by the destroying of a thing. But I think that as far as restitution goes, you're basically bound to as close to a literal interpretation. Also, if you buy the Kindle book, I think you can deliver it in a variety of formats. It needn't necessarily be whatever they have it programmed as, or like an EPUB or something like that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean like I've talked to people who are nervous about pirated content of whatever sort, like movies and stuff like that. They're like, I was at a friend's, they took this pirated movie and watched it. I didn't say anything. I'm worried that I'm complicit / scandal. And I was like, you confess it, and then you just buy the movie, or you just rent the movie, and you just move on.
I honestly, I I've been on a kick recently about intellectual property rights because
Nice.
what is intellectual property? Because I mean, you look at like the history of writing. Like you
Hmm.
like read Eusebius or something. Eusebius is just taking everything he's got and like basically plagiarizing like all the best. That's the history because people didn't see themselves as innovators. Like when
Hmm.
you get into the late medieval poets, when they're writing their stuff, all they're doing is taking old stories and then putting them in new literary formats. They're basically just stealing and synthesizing, like plagiarizing and synthesizing. So I don't necessarily think anybody really has a intellectual property when it comes to truth. You know?
That is a big question. That's like you're asking about Bolivia, you're asking about SCOTUS, you're asking about intellectual property. Yeah, I don't know. I think I mean you could run that answer historically, like genealogically. You could run it in a more principled way, kind of metaphysically, as it were. I mean,
Yeah.
you could do any number of ways. But I don't know what my thoughts are initially. I think that yeah, there's a kind of a new concept now of intellectual worker, which comes with the secularization of the academy. When the academy was more so associated with, like formation for work in the church, there was a kind of system of benefices which made it run, or which made it possible for it to operate kind of prescinding from financial arrangements. So people were less concerned to publish works and sell works and build out a CV, so that way they could get jobs which would garner more money and yada yada and thus and such. That's not to say that people didn't care about those things. People have always cared about those things. People will always care about those things.
Yeah.
But I think that it becomes more acute with the secularization of the academy. And so, yeah, but we live in the here and in the now. And I think that, yeah, you can't just like wish history away or undo the Enlightenment with the snap of a finger. So I'm probably going to come down a little more intellectual property is where we just find ourselves in this post-lapsarian world kind of way. But I'd have to think more about it.
Uh, yeah. You know what? I might, guys, send questions if you have questions in the chat. I might just switch the title to this chill stream with Father Gregory Pine. Because I mean we're already like halfway in. Like why start a long conversation about Prudence? So what do you think about the Racehorse Mod versus Neoscholastics sort of debate?
What do I think about that? I don't really know a ton about it. I've read a little bit about it, specifically as it concerns Christology, because that's my jam. There are things about the Racehorse Mod movement that make me nervous. I think it's good to want to recover the fathers of the church and to recover them in their context with a sensitivity to their context. Because, yeah, there are elements of the tradition which can demonize, prior figures, perhaps without sufficient reflection. But I think that the tradition is wise. And as a result of which, I think that we are judged by the tradition rather than we ourselves judging the tradition, rather than it being the case that we ourselves judge the tradition. And I think that sometimes what you see in the Racehorse Mod kind of vein of thought is an attempt to displace certain elements of the tradition by selectively recovering elements of what went before it. So if you look at the Racehorse Mod series, what is the first volume that they published? This is like during the Second World War when they really got the thing up and going. They published Gregory of Nyssa's Life of Moses. All right. So Gregory of Nyssa is not your biggest figure from the Eastern Church. He's not even the most famous of the Cappadocians. In fact, he's the third most famous of the three of them. So what are we doing here? And then you go back and you get Irenaeus of Lyon. And oftentimes you're going back to certain figures who are addressing questions before they became settled in conciliar declarations.
Exactly.
And so they're thinking not in a way that's unmoored, but they're thinking in a way that's not yet clarified by or hemmed in by subsequent declarations of the ecclesial body. And so sometimes these thinkers will go back to those things and they'll use them as launching points or, jumping off points for their own musings, which tend to want to orient the tradition away from certain settled propositions of like the last, millennium. So like reading von Balthazar, for instance, von Balthazar, just theological method wise, is something else. And that's a longer conversation, but it's like, I'm sorry, did you just cite Adrian von Speyer in the same way that you just cited Maximus the Confessor? But the thing that's fascinating about von Balthazar is he's always quoting, interesting people, but the ones that you see sometimes with most frequency, and it depends on the publication, are Origen, Gregory of Nyssa, Maximus the Confessor. So it's evident that he's doing something deliberate. I'm not saying that those guys are bad guys. St. Gregory of Nyssa is a saint. St. Maximus the Confessor is a saint. Origen was condemned like 300 and some years after his death, but
still kind of based.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big deal. And, a lot of people think that post-apostolic theology is just Origen and friends. So, but it's fascinating that he often goes back to them in certain contexts, like universalism, for instance, where there's a kind of ambiguity about the things that they're proposing, and he's leveraging that ambiguity. So that's what worries me about Racehorse Mod movement as it's kind of prosecuted in the 20th century. So am I against the recovering of ancient texts? No. Am I against, a kind of patristic renaissance? No. But am I against a kind of methodology which somewhat subtly undermines the tradition from within? Yes, especially if you don't acknowledge it at the outset. And then with Neoscholasticism, I think it has its own excesses and its own defects, which need to be acknowledged. So, which goes back to the question regarding militancy. I don't think that a regnant theological position should ever use its regnancy in a way that's overly strident, which could cause alienation on the part of those who do not pertain to the mainstream conversation. I think there's got to be a way of incorporating voices. And I look to the 16th century Siglo de Oro and the way in which it was practiced in Spain as a decent example of that. You just had chairs of these different departments, and then you just had them, form their students and debate amongst each other. And it was kind of proven in a level playing field within the university setting. And that produced an incredible number of really good thinkers. Now, mind you, did some of them tend in a kind of strange direction? Sure. But that's bound to happen, right? You can't hyper-legislate, or you're just going to make it such that life is oppressive. So that's my thought.
I have a quick thought about the Racehorse Mod. Because it seems like when we speak of Racehorse Mod, we're talking about an era of theologians. But when it comes to the original intention, they meant it to be a method, not necessarily a group of theologians or a theological school. Racehorse Mod's supposed to be the method of resourcing um, ancient authors, but we've seen an utter failure after that generation, kind of starting in the early to mid 20th century, going all the way to like de Lubac in his death in the 90s. So what I think the reason is that you don't have younger Racehorse Mod theologians is because the reason that they were such good theologians and they could engage in resourcement is because they were trained as Neoscholastics. That's they were such clear and good thinkers. And the reason why the movement kind of died is because it's impossible to teach unless you have this very formal structure. So the habit of a theologian is harder to build when you're not doing a sort of manual way of teaching. So that's my little theory.
Could be right. I also think too that they were monster classicists, so they were capable of reading those texts with great attention and with great subtlety, given their pretty profound knowledge of the antique culture in which those texts would have been written, which I think that we've just lost that tradition. I mean, you read memoirs or travel diaries from the World War II era, and people are just showing up in foreign lands where the native tongue is wholly other than their own and communicating in Latin and in Greek. And it's like, yeah, it's just not possible today. I mean, it is possible for a very limited subset of individuals, but
so sad.
that appreciation for the antique culture is largely lost.
It's that makes that black. Do you know what black pill means?
I don't.
You ever watch The Matrix?
I did watch The Matrix, yeah.
You know like the red pill and the blue pill?
Yeah, I remember one of them would send him back to his fairy tale life, and then one of them would send him like out into the real world, right?
Yeah, so when it comes to the lingo of the kids these days,
Okay. The youths.
the youths, when it comes to them, taking the black pill means to be really sad about something or really really down about it. And then you could also be Christ pilled. You could be Thomas pilled. Like it just means to like to be able to ingest something as to like really be excited about it,
Okay.
So that's and then also the term based also goes with it. Do you ever heard that one, based?
I've heard it, but I don't know what it means.
It's yeah, I hear that one a lot. It's kind of an apophatic term. It's like a complete negation of cringe.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And cringe is bad.
Yeah. Cringe is like a think of a boomer think of a boomer mass where they have like let me think.
Father gives the final blessing with a guitar.
Yes. Think about that. That is a perfect example of cringe. And they have like Susan from the parish council is handing out all of the Eucharists and invoking Mother God and stuff like that. That's the perfect example of cringe. Now think of the exact negation of all of that. That would be based.
Okay, got it.
So people thought you were a Zoomer. People think you're a lot younger than you are.
How old am I? 33? What's a Zoomer mean?
Zoomer is you know there's boomers. So
Yeah.
Zoomers are like Gen Z. So technically, I won't reveal my exact age, but I am just on the age limit between millennials and Gen Z.
Okay.
So
what is that age limit?
I'm kind of well, if I said the age limit, then I would say my age.
Who cares, man? What are you doing protecting your age from other people? You've got 2 deers on your wall. You're not afraid of them.
Yeah, that's right. But people will like, I've got it before. When I used to be like open when people asked me about my age, the people would get like mad at me, be like, you can't be like writing and doing stuff like that. You're too young,
bro.
Like, you gotta.
People are going to say stuff like that until you die. So
Do they still say that about you? That
I
you're
don't
too
know what
young?
people say about me because I don't necessarily know where I would hear it said.
In my live stream.
There you go.
So
So I was born in
let's.
'88. Does that make me a millennial?
Yes, yes, you would be a
Mm,
millennial. Yeah.
okay.
So
What's older than
the
millennial?
older than millennial,
What's the generation above me?
I think it's Gen X. That'd be like my
Gen X.
parents. That'd
Okay.
be my
And
parents.
what are Zoomers?
Zoomers, that's like that's also known as Gen Z. That's like uh kind of the kids that are in like high school, early college age right now.
Uh-huh.
And then also below that too, like middle school and elementary school and stuff.
Fascinating.
Basically, the whole limit between the two has to do with the availability of the internet. So even among my age group, it's completely different. I grew up in a blue collar household in a very rural area, so I didn't get a phone until I was in like halfway through high school. I never really grew up with like much like didn't grow up with like with an iPod Touch or anything like that. Like you guys all remember that. I don't. I didn't grow up with any of that technology stuff like my peers did.
Mhm.
So that's really the limit is those who didn't grow up with technology and those who did. But there's some of my peers who are the same exact age who did grow up with that, like through late elementary and middle school. So like I'm in such a mixed like age group in this awkward like sort of middle place because you get to like my nieces and nephews. My nieces and nephews, they're completely grew up in with technology. Like they're 2 years old and they know how to use a phone. So like that,
Fascinating.
they are far into Gen Z. But me, I remember a time when like in order to have fun, I just went outside and like threw rocks around and like played in a stream and like went swimming in a pond. Like I remember doing stuff like that. But so that's such a weird like generational gap because other ages aren't that like hard and fast, but you really see a huge difference between people who did and didn't grow up with a strong technology.
Fascinating. All right.
Yeah. Okay,
So
we
I'm a
have
millennial,
some.
and I'm
Yes, you
not a
are.
Zoomer because a Zoomer is Gen Z, which is the generation below me. Nor am I Gen X because that's the generation above me. Nor am I a Boomer because that's my parents' generation.
Yes, and you wouldn't want to be a boomer.
Hey, man, I know some cool Boomers.
No, I mean, but they're not boomers though. The reason they're cool is because they don't exemplify the boomer spirit. You know,
Ah, got it. Yeah.
because you think about it, like think about all of what the boomers have done to us, all of
Oh,
which they've taken away from us.
huh?
Because think about how cool things were. Like, okay, so boomers would have been around in like the
Be forewarned.
50s.
I'm against golden ageism.
Oh yeah,
Becau-
I'm against antiquarianism too, but
Okay,
I
all
think
right. I'm
I think
against the
that's the
preferential option for the ancient as well. So,
well when it comes to antiquarianism, I think what we need I think everybody just needs to read St. John Henry Newman in order to destroy antiquarianism because
wow.
I think that's a problem with everybody except the Roman Catholic Church. Everybody, the Eastern Orthodox have antiquarianism, the Protestants have antiquarianism. Everybody does it, and everybody looks back to a certain golden age that they're going to be drawing their theological and liturgical traditions from, or there's someone the opposite end of the spectrum who completely disregard tradition, and both of those positions are untenable. So the golden mean, let's say, is going to be St. John Henry Newman and his thesis on the development of doctrine. And I where my
You
wife
dropped a sum
moving.
on it.
No, my wife's moving around my books and stuff. I can't find it.
Oh,
That
man.
is the one down the one benefit. Not the only one strong benefit of the religious life for you
Uh-huh.
is you don't have a wife coming around moving your books. Like
That's
this is
I
terrible.
don't have books,
Where's my
bruv.
book? You don't?
Nah. I live in Switzerland. Shipping anything to Switzerland costs $1 billion. I just go to the library.
How far is the library?
Mm, well, here's the thing. I need to order those books so that they show up at the little like guichet. So I need to give them like 36 hours forewarning on any books that I hope to pick up. and then I walk maybe like 15 minutes to the library.
Man, you're living a good life right now. Going to the library.
This is my life, bro.
Do you drink coffee?
I drink like Americano. I drink like a shot of espresso with some water in it.
Yeah, I also decided to severely restrict my caffeine use
Is that
for
part of Lent?
Lent.
Nice
Yeah.
work. Me too. I'm just doing 2 cups a day, which goes to show you where I was.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's go.
but I just had to have a cup of coffee this morning. I was up till 7 a.m. Editing SCOTUS, and then I finally got to bed, and then I had then my son decided he wanted to wake up at about 7 a.m. and then just like laugh for a half an hour while I was trying to sleep.
Nice.
Like he was just sitting in his bassinet, just like having a great time, babies in their joyfulness. He was just really enjoying life. I don't know why he was enjoying life. He was just enjoying life and giggling for like half an hour while I was trying to sleep. And then I had an interview on UFOs. So the guy before you, the guy who you got atop, he was talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
Do you believe in UFOs?
No.
How about ghosts? I'm a firm believer in ghosts.
I think that there could be people who I like souls from purgatory. I'm not against them making a brief appearance, so as to ask an individual to pray for him and stuff like that. But yeah.
How about like souls from hell coming back and for scaring?
That I don't know. That I'd be less convinced about because I could see no efficacy for the Lord permitting that in His providence. It's like, to what end?
I mean, if
the
you
Lord
see
permits us to be. The Lord permits us to be like, as it were, to suffer the effects of demonic assault, which seems like more than enough action coming from hell. So, like, I guess on the one hand, okay, the souls of the damned, why not? But on the other hand, it's like, to what end? Like, what end does that serve? Because the demons, in a certain sense, were defined by their allegiance to the evil one, and the evil one is the great accuser, and as a result of which, it kind of makes sense within the narrative of salvation history. But like souls, like all they care about, as far as I can tell, is not God and themselves. So why would they want us with them? I don't know. Yeah. So I think I'd be more inclined to say yes to souls of purgatory. Actually, I just simply say yes to that. But when it comes to the souls of the damned, I'd be less comfortable.
Okay, so Militant Jamie, I would normally answer that, but since your thing's Christology, I guess I'll just have you answer it. How
There you go.
did Jesus take up a human nature without generating a human hypostasis?
So the basic kind of analogy that St. Thomas uses is the analogy of creation itself. So for St. Thomas, creation isn't a point in time after which things were, but creation is a kind of relation of dependence, whereby what is looks to God, and St. Thomas identifies it in De Potentia, question 3, article 7, as a kind of fourfold relationship. So all of creation depends upon God for its being, for its conservation and being, for its agency, and for its issue and agency. So that relation, which St. Thomas says is a mixed relation, is what we mean by creation. Mixed relation, you say? What's that, Father Gregory? Well, a mixed relation is a relation basically that obtains in one direction. We have like banal examples of them. So, for instance, like I'm walking through the park, for instance, and I pass a tree on my left and a tree on my right. Those trees are, as it were, related to me, but I'm not related to them because I am a substance of a greater dignity, and it's not as if I am in constant flux as my position vis-a-vis X tree and Y tree is constantly changing. So it's something that inheres in like in a lower form, but it doesn't inhere in a higher form. And St. Thomas will say that a mixed relation is what we have in creation. So creation relates to God, but God does not relate to it. The kind of ground floor of that claim is the fact of the divine immutability. Because if God were constantly acquiring new relations, then he would be in a state of flux, and as a result of which, he wouldn't be identifiable as like a kind of classically theist God. And so when it comes to the incarnation, what we have is a creature, right? Our Lord's human nature, which is assumed, right, into a union of hypostasis. So the human nature is assumed into the person of the Word by a relation which obtains in the creature but not in the Creator. So it's a kind of radical orientation of the human nature to the Godhead, and that is by a grace, which is by a created gift, and that grace we call the grace of union. So that's just what we mean basically by the hypostatic union, which is the grace whereby human nature is hypostatically united to the Word, such that the Word subsists in divine and human natures, acts through divine and human natures by an operative communion. And that's that.
Have you ever heard of Leontius of Byzantium?
I have.
I actually, you know, the volume where I don't know if you have it, but the volume where all of his works are translated. You don't have it. I actually on the channel interviewed the editor, and the editor, he's a Jesuit. I didn't hold it against him. From Notre Dame, I won't hold that against him either. And he taught on Leontius and edited a volume, wrote some papers on him. And I because apparently like nobody knows about Leontius, but he was kind of the at least in the popular theological 19th century way of talking about theology, he was the one who first came up with anhypostasis and enhypostasis.
Boom.
So I thought I saw St. John Henry Newman is a golden age.
There you go.
Oh man, I like this question. How was your Swiss?
Nice. Great question, Militant Jamie. And a trick question, because there is no such thing. Although there is a local patois which exists only in one canton, which canton is called Graubünden. And the name of that local patois is Romanche, which is kind of like a strange pigeon form of Latin, or I don't know exactly how I would describe it because I don't really know what it is. But Switzerland is composed of 3 major language groups. There are 6 cantons in which French is spoken, 19 cantons in which basically only German is spoken, then 1 canton in which basically only Italian is spoken. And then there's that 1 German-speaking canton in which Romanche is spoken, but just in a couple of valleys. I live in the French-speaking part in Canton Fribourg, so I speak French on the day-to-day, and then I need to know German and Spanish and Italian for theological purposes. So my Swiss is great. That's what I'm trying to say.
What do you think about this video right here? You can see it. Thomas Aquinas confesses Jesus doesn't love Christians.
I haven't seen the video.
So in this video, I explain why St. Thomas Aquinas believes that God doesn't love humans. This is based on the affirmation of the doctrine of no real relations. Thomism debunked. You know the meme deep. You're gonna be all on the Gen Z lingo after this one. You know the idiom debunked.
I don't know. So
you know how I'm assuming when you were on social media that you saw like people
never have been.
Like when you never been on social media?
No.
Oh gosh. Okay, this is gonna be harder to explain. You know how
actually that's not true. I was on Facebook for 2.5 weeks, my first year of college, but then I was getting updates about all the dubious decisions that my friends from high school were making, and I said no, never again. And then I canceled my account. Yeah.
And Father Pine wept.
Exactly.
So you know how like you'll be telling something to somebody, or somebody else will be talking about something, and it's like kind of a controversial sort of thing, and they bring up a piece of evidence. The other person's like, actually, that's been debunked. You ever hear that?
No.
Oh, you've never heard that? Come on. You'd be perfect for Twitter. This is hard. This is very difficult. So people will go around and they will debunk like Christianity has been debunked, like the Gospel of Mark has been debunked, and they'll like say like, oh, Bart Ehrman debunked like the manuscript evidence for the New Testament, and a bunch of stuff. And because to make fun of them, people just called them debunkers rather than debunkers.
That's good. Yeah, the internet, man, it's just a really creative place.
Oh, so Father Pine, was the incarnation strictly necessary for God to save us? If not, what do you think of the famous phrase, "What is assumed is not healed"? I'll pull you up that section of the Summa for you.
You don't need to.
Don't you just have it
So
memorized?
I mean, it just takes too long to read small words. So it's not strictly necessary. St. Thomas says that it's most fitting, convenientissimus. Um, and the reason for which is, God could have chosen to save us by whatever means he thought possible, but this means was especially fitting, and St. Thomas gives a variety of reasons as to why. So 5, which promote us in the good, 5, which withdraw from the evil, but it doesn't seem that St. Thomas envisions that as, exhaustive. But I'm basically what I'm writing my dissertation on is Tertia Pars question 1, article 2, the fourth argument. So like the fourth thing that pertains to promotion in the good, namely that in doing so he gives us an example, which was related to what goes before, which is he increases our faith, emboldens our hope and kindles our charity, and then what goes after in that list, which is it's that whereby he divinizes us. So I'm arguing basically that the example that Christ gives in human flesh is a divinizing example because it bears a theandric operation, which like transposes divine attributes into the register of human virtues, which is, I think, true. So not strictly necessary. God could have snapped his fingers and, as it were, but it seems most fitting. And some people will argue, I read this article by a guy named Van Roo about the resurrection, that it seems that God would have had to have made it known to us were it to be received as something like salvation.
Have you read De Rationis Fide?
I have.
Isn't so on his chapter in there on the fittingness of the incarnation. That I think that's one of my favorite sections in the Corpus Thomisticum. The other one is the question from the Summa on beatitude. That's another just beautiful like devotional one where he talks about like if you want power in this world, God is omnipotent. If you want pleasure in this world, like our Lord
Yeah.
is like brings joy in the beatific vision. And like I think that's one of the most beautiful passages. But when it comes to that from De Rationis Fide, that section on the fittingness of the incarnation, it seems like I'm just reading like, and I mean Athanasius is on the incarnation, but in like put in one paragraph. That's what it feels like I'm reading, and somehow it's even more brilliant than like the entire work by the defender of Nicene orthodoxy.
Wow, savage. Yeah, those little treatises are wonderful. The Compendium Theology is kind of like that, but longer. The De Rationibus Fide is a gem.
I love the compendium. I honestly, because I'm a visionary. I'm a
Okay,
visionary.
I'm ready.
I think that the compendium could because I think that like most of my audience are kind of people that have like read the catechism. They're good on like the baseline of the Catholic faith, but they're not ready to like hop in the Summa. Like that awkward middle ground of like
I do.
laymen that like want to really become theologically educated, but it's hard for them to like have access. I think especially for them, like being taken through the compendium would be like a perfect like intro, to get to wetten the palate, so to speak. Get
My
them
go-to
get them into it.
recommendations, and I actually have to go here pretty shortly for Compline, but my go-to recommendations are on the Creed, on the Ten Commandments, on the Our Father, on the Hail Mary, and then the De Rationibus Fide and the Compendium Theology. That's kind of like how I ramp people
Mhm.
up to other things. And then people get to the Summa like, this is awesome. And then eventually they're reading the Summa, they're like, I want to know more. And then you refer them to the disputed
Yes.
questions. And then they're like,
Yes.
bruv, I could read the De Veritate until the cows come home. And you're like, you and me both, sweets.
I remember when I had a professor first introduced me. It was on a class on the doctrine of God, and he first introduced me to De Veritate, talking about God's knowledge. And it was like, and I'd been reading the Summa for a while, so I'm like, De Veritate, more like De Isatate. Like I got this. This will be simple, simplitate. And I read the first article,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like like 25 like objections and responses, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
dude.
no, this is not going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be. Like
It's a Thomistic playground.
this is definitely not the Summa for sure. And then one quick question: can you have one more question before you go?
Yeah. Totes.
Actually, there's two questions.
That's fine.
Can I have the first one's really easy. So, will there be spicy food on the new Earth if there is no pain?
Wow. That you said it was easy. That's incredibly difficult. What is this person like Anubis or something like that? It's fascinating. Northern Gothic.
Yeah, because capsicum
Capsaicin
triggers
triggers
pain.
pain receptors. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were mosquitoes in the Garden of Eden. So you figured that out, and I'll answer this question.
Okay. Question: what is Father Pine's view of predestination? Does he hold a view like Banez? Please say yes.
I do, yeah. I've encountered Elijah in a variety of different places, but yeah, no, I like Gary Lagrange, the books on providence, predestination, and then the commentary on the treatise on grace. I kind of follow that as he describes it pretty closely. So, which is a kind of neo-Banesian view. So,
Okay, thank you for being on. I guess I'll let you go to Compline. It's about that would be non. It's non over here in Eastern Standard Time. So thank you for showing up. Love to if you ever wanted to do another chill Q&A, just let me know. But
dude, chill Q&A. This is a new genre. See, like maybe that's part of being a millennial is that you think that everything's kind of serious, but part of being a Gen Zer is like, dude, there isn't anything serious in this world. You just have chill streams and you answer questions as the whim
no.
presents itself.
I
But
did notice that as people and this is not calling you old, but as people
no,
get
do it.
older, like as guests get older, they get like more like super tense about like being on like a live stream and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I have my wife bring me food while I'm on a live stream. I'll be like,
Yeah.
she'll bring me dinner because I mean, I got stuff going on. Like I'm a student, I got a full-time job, like doing this. Like sometimes the only time I have to eat dinner is talking on a live stream with somebody about like I don't know, like something like I'm having somebody
UFOs.
come on, yeah, UFOs, talking on a live stream with UFOs, eating my dry bread collation, which was not tasty at all.
Yeah, God bless, man. No, I think it's for me it's in part because like of the media in which I contribute, like Ponce with Aquinas and then God's
Mm,
Playing. Both of those they're not perfect, there's still quite a bit of chatter and quite a bit of bluster, but they're like pretty polished. And so kind of pretty polished is my go-to. But that being said, if somebody else sets a tone where they're like, yeah, man, we're just gonna bro out and shoot deer, eat dry bread, I'll be like, all right, I can get on for that. Yeah.
okay, so that's all. So before we leave, look at this banner at the bottom. I got a cool banner
Nice.
going.
Look at that. Oh yeah, and I need to give a plug for my book, which I said I was going to do. I wrote a book. It's about prudence. It's called Prudence. Choose confidently, live boldly. It's available for order on Kindle right now and for pre-order and paperback. So I think it's actually a good book. It's something that I'm proud of, which I can say of like 4 things in my life. So check it out.
Okay, let me find it. I'll put it in the live chat real quick. And I'll make sure I put my why Prudence, choose confidently, live boldly. There it is.
Nailed it.
I need to pre-order it. Okay, let me get the uh, okay. I don't want to make you be late to Compline, so I'm hurrying, I promise.
Doing great.
There you go. So it's in the chat right now. I want every single one of you to buy that book right now. Did I spell Tomum right? I
Uh, I don't know what you wrote, so I can't click on it and I can't see it
no no
because
no no
I'm
no.
1,000
Like
years old.
it's on the ticker right at the bottom of the
Oh
screen.
yeah, you killed it. Oh yeah, ETA Tomom, you're killing it.
There you go. Okay, thank you. And will you send us off with a prayer and a blessing?
With pleasure. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Grant us grace, O merciful God, to desire ardently all that is pleasing to thee, to examine it prudently, and to acknowledge it truthfully, for the glory of thy name, who live and reign forever and ever. Amen. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. And I don't think I have any more streams, everybody that's watching today. So I will see you. I don't have any streams tomorrow. I guess Friday with Swansona. Maybe I'll do a Q&A tomorrow. So thank you and God bless.
Peace.